The quietest place on earth. My quest started when I was in the New York subway with my kids. The kids were whining, 4 trains came screaming into the station at once, and I put my hands over my ears and cowered. The noise was deafening. In cities, the ever-present dull background roar of planes, cars, machinery and voices is a fact of life. There is no escape from it, and I was beginning to be driven mad by it. In an attempt to recapture some peace, I decided to go on a mission to find the quietest place on Earth, to discover whether absolute silence exists. The place I was most excited about visiting was the anechoic chamber at Orfield Laboratories in Minnesota. This is a small room, massively insulated with layers of concrete and steel to block out exterior sources of noise. It is the quietest place on Earth, 99.9% sound absorbent. Ironically, far from finding it peaceful, most people find its perfect quiet upsetting. The presence of sound around you means things are working. It's business as usual. When sound is absent, that signals malfunction. I had heard that being in an anechoic chamber for longer than 15 minutes can cause extreme symptoms, from claustrophobia and nausea to panic attacks. A violinist tried it and hammered on the door after a few seconds, demanding to be let out because he was so disturbed by the silence. I booked a 45-minute session. No one had managed to stay in for that long before. When the heavy door shut behind me, I was plunged into darkness. Lights can make a noise. For the first few seconds, being in such a quiet place felt like nirvana, a balm for my jangled nerves. I strained to hear something and heard nothing. Then, after a minute or two, I became aware of the sound of my breathing. So I held my breath. The dull thump of my heartbeat became apparent. Nothing I could do about that. As the minutes ticked by, I started to hear the blood rushing in my veins. The feeling of peace was spoiled by a tinge of disappointment. This place wasn't quiet at all. You'd have to be dead for absolute silence. Then, I stopped obsessing about what bodily functions I could hear and began to enjoy it. I didn't feel afraid anymore and came out only because my time was up. Everyone was impressed that I'd beaten the record, but having spent so long searching for quiet, I was comfortable with the feeling of absolute stillness. Afterwards, I felt wonderfully rested and calm. My experience in the anechoic chamber changed my life. I found that making space for moments of quiet in my day is the key to happiness. They give you a chance to think about what you want in life. If you can occasionally become master of your own sound environment, from turning off the TV to moving to the country as I did, you become a lot more accepting of the noises of everyday life.